Welcome to episode 76. I'm pretty sure Dave is usually our numbers guy,
It
and then
is
I'm just going off the dome. It's 76. Welcome to episode
76.
76 of the Puck Pod. We got me, we got Brian, we got Dave. Guys, anything going on for you guys this week? Anything special?
Yeah, I went to a couple of law school events this week. Um, it was pretty interesting, really intriguing. I've never been in a room with that many special people that do that well in life. It makes you feel like I can do better, a lot better in life. But it was fun. You learn a lot about yourself. You learn a lot about the people around you. So yeah.
Nice.
Humbling experience, you'd say, Brian?
Oh, extremely. I was like the biggest loser in the room. There's there's this guy. He looks super young. I'm on my way out. He came up to me. Hey, how are you? I'm not gonna say his name, but introduced himself to me. He we just like started chatting, whatever. I told him what I was into, what I was doing, and I was like, oh, like where did you go to school? Oh, he worked at Paul Weiss, which is like a top American firm. Like getting to know him, he's like, oh, like I'm thinking of going back to teach at my old school, this and that. I went to this little school out in Boston, and then like he was really extremely
Harvard?
humble. And then eventually it slipped that he went to Harvard
Oh
because
my
someone came by.
A
So
little
he's gonna
school.
be
Oh
like, gonna
yeah.
be
Dude,
a
Oh, how
what a
little
joke. Yeah.
Harvard Boston is. That's like
Aw,
somebody saying like, yeah, I went to this little school in New York and you went to NYU or something like
I
that.
played for this little hockey team out of Toronto called the Maple
The
Leafs. They haven't
Maple
really won a
Leafs.
lot, but like, yeah, they're
it's
kind
like
of a
he's trying to like hide it the whole conversation, whatever. But then someone walked by
yeah.
and kind of like slipped it to me, and I was like, oh,
So
so this
you
Why?
guy
were
works at
humble,
Wait,
Harvard.
and this
hold
guy
on.
was trying to be humble.
Do
Yeah,
people from Harvard not want to let it known that they went to Harvard? Is there like something is it taboo to say that you're like proud to have went to Harvard? I feel like that's
I'm
something lawyers do, if I'm being honest.
well, he definitely tried to hide it, and the firm that he's at definitely pays him Austin Matthews money, so he's
We'll
he's
find out the
he's
truth
doing
to
quite
that,
well.
Dave. Whenever Brian runs into his next Harvard lawyer buddy, we'll
Yeah,
find out if
we'll
this guy
find
lets
out.
it loose or not. I'll speak for me and Dave, unless Dave had something to add. But like, we also spoke to someone. We won't name them, but in terms of getting humbled for what me and Dave study, yeah, it was a nice little reality check on Friday. So, yeah, that's what me and Dave had going on. You have anything to add there, Dave?
Yeah, United won. United,
Yeah,
United,
yes.
United.
Oh God,
Huge
here we
win for
go.
United in FA Cup final against City. I only know this because Dave was telling me about it, and I totally forgot it was on. I would have pulled it up yesterday at work, but I was too busy watching Formula One, Monaco Grand Prix. My boy Charles Leclerc on pole, and full disclosure, I have it on in the background right now. The race here on Sunday. It's already been crazy. We're already not even half a lap in, and it's been flagged, red flagged. So yeah, full disclosure, that is on in the background, but we're here to talk some hockey. We're going to start with the Cats and Rags, Panthers, Rangers. This series tied up at 1. It's been a really tight series. What have your thoughts been so far through 2 games, guys?
I really don't like the Rangers, man. I don't know. I hope that Florida takes them out. It's gonna be a 7 game series. I already feel it. It's super tight, and it's too early for me to give a definitive, standout player of the playoffs or for the series. But we know that's gonna be really close, and both teams want it bad.
The exact same thing Brian said, but for the Panthers. Like I don't want the Panthers to go through. I wouldn't mind seeing the
Really?
Rangers advance. I do have a standout player, not a standout, but just somebody who I've always like admired. He is um like when I think of playoff performers, I always go back to like Vinny Trocheck. Like everywhere he's been, whether it was on Florida, on Carolina, I don't think he made the playoffs at all in Florida. But regardless of the fact, he is a player just built to play in the playoffs. And I believe it was game 2, he had a goal. Did he not score the opener?
Yes, he did
Yeah,
score the opener. It was like about as empty net as an empty netter can get. I forget who made him the beautiful feed. It was probably
yeah.
Panarin. I remember it was a right-handed shot, but
It
listen,
might have been,
right
yeah.
time, right place. Like he's
Yeah.
been there all playoff long. We talked about it a couple episodes ago. Like he was like leading the playoffs in ice time for a forward
Yeah.
ahead of McDavid and Draisaitl for a point in time. I don't think he's still there, but
he's just so
yeah,
dependable. That's what you need. You need dependable guys, like guys that you could
yeah.
lean on. And Vinny Trocheck has been that. Like he really has. So yeah, big shout out to Vinny T. Also good old Italian boy. So we got to show love to the Italians every time.
You did some digging. What was his background again? I think you said it was
He's
half Italian.
he's half Italian and half I believe
Austrian.
it's no, it's a Slovakian. I want to say
Slovakian?
Slovakian.
Okay.
It's either Slovak or Slovenian. I think it's
That
Slovakian though.
I feel like Slovakia would make sense because like first name Vinny, there's the Italian. Trocheck, that's definitely Slovakian. I
Yeah,
think you did get it figured out there.
I think it might
Um,
be.
guys, I really do think this is the most evenly matched series in the playoffs. Do you guys have any rebuttal to that? I'm saying from round one to even any hypothetical Stanley Cup final. I don't know if there's any two teams that are built the most similarly that are just evenly matched like these two.
Well,
Would
we'll go player for player. We'll look at
yeah
the
go.
two goalies. You can't go wrong with either or. I think Igor is better personally, but I like Bob more. He has a I have a preference for Bob just because of the fact that he's not wearing blue. Uh, but then you look at the number one demon, Fox Montour, both extremely mobile, both extremely solid. You can't go wrong with either or, if I'm being honest with you.
You're
And
leaning
then
Fox.
I'd probably
yes,
leave Fox too.
100% you're
But
leaning
still,
Fox.
like they've
Yeah.
got an offensive number one D man that can still do everything else. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then we'll even look at the top three forwards. You got Zibanejad, Panarin, and we'll throw Kreider in there because he's better than Laugh. And then you
I
compare him to
mean,
Barkov,
yeah, that's that.
Verhaeghe.
I don't even think that's unfair, and like the fact that Laugh is not on that list just goes to show like how deep their forward core is, right?
Even we just talked about Vinny Trocheck, who's
And
been
yeah,
gross, and right, yeah,
And then you can compare it to Florida's three, Barkov. We'll throw Verhaeghe in there. We'll throw. Do you guys want to say Reinhart or Kachuk? Because either way, like you
either
said, you can't
or.
go wrong.
Same
yeah,
thing.
yeah. I'd
Yeah,
probably go Barkov, Reinhardt, and Kachuk. If Verhaeghe somehow doesn't make the list, and
yeah.
dude has like
40 goal scorer.
like 5 OT winners in the playoffs already, like
Mm-hmm.
incredible. Tons of
These,
depth on both sides.
and if you look at the worst player, Rempe and
Lombard.
Rempe on the
Yeah,
Rangers, and then maybe Stenlund or Cousins
Warren's
on.
Stanlin, yeah,
I
like
go
one of the
Lombard,
cousins.
honestly. But Lombard has a presence on that fourth line. Like it's not
Yeah,
like he's just there. He's there to be an asshole, but it's he brings more of like a personality to that asshole role, I think. I think he's like for just a fourth line grinding player, like Ryan Lomberg is the type of guy that you probably want down there.
Ryan Lambert, I like that. Ryan Lambert's the type of guy you want at every single playoff team.
Yeah,
yeah.
100%.
We learned that last year as
Oh
League
yeah.
fans. Actually, no, I think he actually was out of that series, but I think Boston learned that last year, and then we didn't get a chance to see it, but we knew that's the type of guy he is. Brian, you mentioned Rempe there. I wanted to give him his flowers because I think he's been good in the little ice time that Laviolette gives him. Although he did set a career high of 10 minutes in game two, got an overtime shift even. I think he's been disciplined really all playoffs. You haven't really heard his name in the news for the wrong reasons like we were in the regular season. And believe it or not, he was the fastest player on the ice in game two, clocking in at over 22 miles per hour. No one else had a faster burst of speed. So shout out to Rempe. Shout out to Lavio for getting him in the right spots. They've got something working there for sure.
I find it
And then just
extremely
last thing. Yeah.
like obviously with Lavilla, he mismanaged the young guys with our team. We see how they do now. Um, I find it odd that this is like the young guy that he's got the most value out of, the one that isn't playing top 6 minutes, the one that doesn't have that top six potential. Rather, the enforcer is the one that he's bringing the most out of. So
Yeah. And then just one last stat here for you guys. Are you guys familiar with Steve Valiquette?
no,
He's an in
Name sounds
studio
familiar.
analyst.
Yeah, it's okay.
He's
Yeah.
a former Ranger goalie in studio analyst on MSG Network. And he was recently on Real Kipper and Born. He's been on there a couple times, and he's also the CEO of ClearSight Analytics. If you guys have ever seen that, usually pops up on Twitter. So he's a big numbers guy, despite playing like in that Kiprios era. But he laid out some really, really fascinating facts and stats, I thought. So we talked about how the Florida Panthers went from being the #1 rush chance team in the President Trophy season. So that would have been 2 years ago when they started with Quenneville and then Burnett came in. So they were first. Since then, so under Paul Maurice, basically, they've been the last place team. This team does not get any rush chances whatsoever. They've completely flipped their play style from going rush, rush, rush to possession, cycle, cycle, cycle. Another stat here. The Cats have given up the second most breakaways this year, but Bobrovsky is one of the top goalies against breakaways. So you have a team that's just playing a style and a system that fits their goaltender. And I think that's why Bob has been incredible for them the past 2 years. You just have a perfect match on both sides there. I thought that was really interesting stuff because I don't know where the hell you can get those stats from in like a public forum.
Yeah, no, it's tough to do unless you're tracking that with like your eyes and you know what I mean? Like you're tracking that like on your own. Like you're not seeing that
game by game.
Yeah. Yeah. Every single playoff game, every single game. Yeah. No, that's tough. I mean, it's clearly working for them because they're in their second consecutive conference final. They've won a round in the past, at least a round in the past 3 playoffs, and they're looking to make it to a consecutive cup final, right? Like, so it's clearly working for them. They're making it work. Even maybe it doesn't work for every team, but they are probably the best built for that side. Like I can't really see some of the players on that team playing like a rush heavy offense. Like, you know what I mean? Like they don't seem like that type of team. In years past, they probably were. You said that was under Burnett where they were.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's how Burnett tends to play as well. But man, Pomo, shut up, Pomo. Like
most interesting coach in the league, like definitely best quote in the league. Like
definitely, yeah.
I don't know if he's. I don't know if I liked him a lot. Like I don't know if I like would put him top 10, top 5 coaches in the league before he had this team. But this team is like so perfect for the way he wants to play. Like
yeah,
I'm not sure if it's him or the team.
Bri, he was on that Winnipeg team, and I'm sorry to say it, that team's very like they're just weak-minded. Like that core that they had, that was a weak-minded team. You know what I mean? You put him with guys who want to like not even just want to thrive, but guys that just buy into his system, and good things happen, basically, right?
Does this Florida Panthers team not remind you of that 2018 Jets team though? Like I think they do play similar styles. I think you have a lot of the same personalities and depth. So, right? I think
to a better degree. I think to like a higher standard as well. Like I don't know if we're gonna go pound for pound with that team, they probably do compare, but I'm still probably taking this current iteration of the Panthers over any of those Jets iterations, if I'm being honest.
No, I agree.
I'll give you guys I'll give you guys a little like terminology thing. It's in mergers and acquisitions. It's called synergy. It's what happens when like a company buys another company. It's like the sum of the parts together is greater than the parts itself. So 2 + 2 would equal like 5 or 6, if that makes sense. This is a situation.
Hold on. I didn't learn that. I didn't learn that in school.
I swear they have synergy in like the Chow games, Brian. I think I know you're going on. I think I got you.
This is a situation in which it's like you have a 4 and a 2, and it should equal 6, but it comes out to like a 10.
Yeah.
So for the Leafs case, they have a 4 and a 2, and it equals 1.
Yeah.
Pardon me?
For the Leafs, it's like if they have a 4 and it goes down to 1. You actually subtract.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well,
I get what you're talking about, Brian. You look at the roster on paper and you're like, it's pretty good. But then you look at it on the ice and you're like, that's really good.
100%.
Yeah, that's 100% going on here. With both teams, I would say.
If we're going to be honest, and if we want to start skipping ahead, that also does remind me of another team in this playoffs.
There's 2. Like you can give them both.
Who are you going with? Let's go into that series.
Dude, I think the one that you might be thinking of isn't the one I'm like. I don't know.
Okay, so on the count of 3, right?
Yeah.
And this is what I'm guessing who you are thinking of.
Do you want me to say it
Mind
too?
you, yeah,
Three,
yeah.
2, 1.
Dallas.
Oilers.
Oilers. Whoa! Look at this! Look at
So
this! Look
listen,
at
listen,
Oh.
listen. The thing is, if for the Oilers, like if you have two stars like the caliber of McDavid and Draisaitl, it's very tough to uh yeah, you could have like team synergy. And I will say, from watching I couldn't catch the whole game yesterday, but I think it was I think the Oilers penalty kill has like killed 19 straight or maybe 20 straight um power plays. Like they haven't even let Dallas had a sniff so far in 2 games, and Dallas has had already like 10 chances, I think. Um and they did a very good job against the Canucks, I remember, especially in the last round in the last series. But for yeah, for me, it's like if you have McDavid and Draisaitl, it's like your whole team should already like you should have synergy by proxy, basically. But for the Dallas Stars team, underratedly, like their former core are now guys that are playing on like the third line. They're playing like depth roles and like Sagan and Ben, and then you're iterating guys that are under the age of like 25, and they're absolutely studs. 8 guys on that team this year, or was it 8 or 9 guys that had 20 or more goals? They don't have that definitive score. Like we probably thought Robertson would be their 45, 50 goal scorer, but he didn't hit those heights. But that was okay because it was supplemented by the rest of the teams. Like we'll track it back to their synergy together. They just play so damn well together. Shout out to Jamie Benn opening the scoring yesterday. Like that's a guy who's been with this Stars organization for 15 years. I know a lot of people just absolutely hate the guy. The guy has some shitty antics. Let's face facts here. He does, but man, he's given like 15 years of blood, sweat, and tears to that team. So for him to be the one to open up the scoring yesterday, it seems very like poetic, honestly.
You want to talk about some poetic stuff here? The Oilers have more playoff series losses against Dallas than any other franchise. Did you guys know that? They're 1-5 all time against Dallas. So
Really.
yeah. Now, however, let's talk more poetic stuff. Dallas in game one, 0 for 7 in their last 7 attempts. So lots of poetry in motion here. It's
If
an
you're a,
interesting
s-
script.
if you're a Stars fan, why on earth would you ever pay for game one tickets in your own barn?
It's true.
Maybe you hope
Like
and pray that you see the one, basically.
maybe, but
Wow.
I'll tell you what,
Every
I
game
don't
7, I
remember.
know that the Leafs barn, or at least like Maple
Oh
Leaf
yeah.
Square, is pretty packed. It's pretty packed. Why would we ever do this to ourselves, Brad?
Man,
I,
I was at a bar for a Leaf game 7 this past year, thinking it'd be different. It wasn't. So
to be fair, every single night you ice a team like that, you have a chance to win. That team is special, man. They're so good. I
honestly, dude, that just does it not seem to just be like kind of like between the ears? Like if you hear it enough times, like you know you have the talent to do it. Like that team should realistically be going like they should win 4 of every like 5 games, basically. It just so happens that every time that they lose a game, it happens to
won.
be the first game of the series. Like,
I would love to know what their game 2 record is, because outside of Vegas, right? Like, and if you even go back multiple years, I bet they're like, I don't know, like 7-2 in game twos or
yeah.
something. Like
If
I don't
they
like whatever it is.
if they're 0-7 in game ones, if you sit here and tell me they're
I'm
not
going
7-0,
I'm guessing at least I'm going
6-1,
6-1, right? Like
yeah.
that. I bet that Vegas one is the only loss in game 2. So
Yeah.
I don't know. That's interesting. And yeah, I like if that was a storyline in Toronto, game one's like just imagine the preamble up to a game one. It would be like just make you nauseous listening to the
Oh,
media talk about
I
that
mean, we already
storyline.
have that for the game 7, so like
Yes,
that's already
yes,
enough. You know what I mean?
They
yeah. You're not
they
wrong.
always just bounce back though, and they never give you a bad product on the ice.
No,
I've never
100%.
seen the Dallas Stars game and I'm like, wow, like that was a bad effort.
Dude,
I
they
mean,
they they play the game like they wanted you hear it all the time, like they play the game the right way. Like I don't think a team in this playoff left like exemplifies that sane quite as much as for my money, at least. Like maybe you think like Florida, maybe think the Rangers, maybe you think the Oilers. Like for my money, it's them. Like they play the game the right way every single day. sometimes it doesn't always go well for them. It literally it took the Oilers to second overtime and a disallowed goal to get them their game one win, right? Like it's not an easy out for anybody.
Um,
Uh,
the Oilers are the highest scoring 5-on-5 team heading into this series in the playoffs, and the Stars are the lowest scoring 5-on-5 team. So they just are on opposite ends of the spectrum in terms of how they play. I want to give the Oilers credit for tightening up defensively, though. Like as much as they are a high scoring team, I don't think they're giving up that much. Last night they outshot the Stars not by much, 29-25. But then if you look at the block shots, Stars really get into those lanes. They blocked 22 shots compared to the Oilers 9. So you have the Oilers trying, pushing. But the Stars are just kind of built to insulate themselves from all that offense. I saw a stat that Tanev and Harley were the only two defensemen. If you combine their block shots, they were over 100. No other combination of two defensemen on any team were even in the 80s going into this series. So
Yeah,
that
lots
shines
of
through.
rubber.
That definitely shines through.
Lots of rubber
The,
for
the
those
shin
guys.
pads are eating good. That's
Oh, yeah.
that's what's going on there. Okay,
Yeah.
so yeah, two really tight series. Do you have anything, Brian, before we move on?
Yeah. Who you guys have just off top of the dome? Because I
The
don't know for
whole
this one.
series or this series?
This series right now.
Oh, Stars in 7. I've said that from the beginning
Yeah.
because and here's the thing. You could say 7. If you end up saying 7, it's almost a death nail for the team playing for the team playing against Peter DeBoer. Like I think we brought up this we must have brought up this Peter DeBoer
Yeah,
stats
it's like
Yeah.
18-1
3 or
or
4
something.
weeks in
Game seven.
He's
3 or 4
8-0.
8-0 in game 7, right? Like
It's
all time.
crazy. So
You know
no
what I
wonder
mean?
they like to lose in game 1. That's how they get to game 7, man. They don't want to win series in 6. Are you kidding me? Yeah, no,
Yeah.
Would have been
I will
nice.
go also. I'll go Stars in 7.
Would have been nice
They
to
were
have
my
him as
pick.
a. It would have been nice to have him as an assistant back in Washington, back when we were making game 7s in the second round and stuff. But
I mean,
anyway,
Peter Board would be the greatest leaf of all time, greatest leaf coach of all time, man.
I
Holy,
think
Buddy would have been undefeated in game 7s. Could you
oh
imagine
man.
that? Wow.
the
Buddy
save would
would
have
Always
won
comes back
perfect.
to the
he'd have a
Leafs.
statue already without a cup.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
they'd be casting it
They'd
right
put
now.
they'd bring the statue on the bench every game.
Yeah.
Okay, like
Yeah.
they're actually moving Legends Row because it is like a bench. They're actually making the real bench Legends Row now. That's what they would
Yeah.
do for Pete.
Yeah,
That
100%.
that guy, that just bringing up that stat, that guy might have like everybody goes into game 7, it's like crapping their pants. Like everybody's a little bit shaky.
Yeah.
It's like excitement. That guy's probably so chill on game 7.
Ice
Yeah, I've
cold.
done it 8 times already. Yeah.
Yeah,
He's so
like
ice
he's
cold.
yeah. The one time he loses, he's gonna be like, "Okay, guys, game 8, game. I'm ready for game 8." He's not even gonna understand that series end after game 7 for him. He'll be shocked.
Dude,
But it's not gonna happen. Yeah.
You're telling me Peter DeBoer before game 7 doesn't take like an ice bath and thinks it's like a hot shower or something? Like that's how ice cold he is.
Yeah, he gets onto the rink and he goes to the assistant coach. He's like, "Man, it's like a sauna in here." Like
Can't tell them to put
ice
on the
cold in his
AC.
veins. Yeah. Okay, let's move from the Oilers and Stars to the team that the Oilers knocked out, who had their locker cleaned out, the Canucks. So we had Rick Tocchet win the Jack Adams this week. I don't know if you guys had any doubts on that one there. Andrew Burnett, like we talked about before, he was actually second in voting, but it was like a huge difference. Rick Bowen is 3, Lavio 4. Yeah, so I don't know. Was this one ever in doubt for you guys?
Well, listen, I think everybody went into the season with not that high expectations. I think I said it to you on our train ride. Like that should have been like everybody was putting them in as like a Pacific 3 or like wild card 1-2 team, right?
Guilty.
They won the oh wow, we didn't realize you were this good sweepstakes, right? Like everybody slept on
That's the
them.
retail for a Jack Adams team,
That
right?
is quite
We
literally.
thought you were gonna suck. You
We thought
didn't
you were gonna
suck.
suck.
Congrats.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That is the recipe for Jack Adams. It isn't about like they say best coach. If it was the best coach, it would always go to the person winning the President's Trophy. It's not. So
it's all relative to expectations, right?
100%.
Okay.
I don't think it was ever really in doubt. Was there a close second for that? Like you mentioned Burnett, I
don't really.
even consider Burnett.
He was second, but not close second.
Yeah.
Right?
It was
So-
literally Tocchet and everybody else, basically.
Yeah. Talkis to lose. He didn't end up losing it. Yeah, you got something, Brian?
Yeah, he also brought the most out of his, well, not his two star players, but he made two guys that you could say were the top six role into stars. That being Brock Besser and JT Miller. They both had career seasons this year, and now they both look amazing going into next year probably. So we'll see how that goes. But you got to give him credit where credit's due. Bonus and was it
Brunette.
Brunette? Yeah, Brunette. They both
Yeah.
made the playoffs, which is good on them. I think Bonus had a chance to maybe steal it, given Winnipeg's performance, but I don't know. I think the right guy got the right award.
Yeah, fair enough. So yeah,
For sure.
Talkit spoke to the media. He mentioned how his team basically put respect back into that jersey and into that logo. I thought that was really well said. And then we also had obviously the players speak to the media. Philip
Oh,
Roenick, defenseman. Did you see this clip, Brian, of Philip Roenick or no?
was it? I know he had a good quote. I forgot what he said, but
He barely ever speaks to the media. Okay, so this was already huge that he was speaking to the media, and he fielded a question from a reporter who insinuated, "Hey, listen, is there anything that you think was holding you back?" And this is paraphrasing. What was holding you back in the second half of the season? Were you going through some injury? So he
no.
gave him that out, and Hronik was like, "No, if I knew the answer for why I wasn't good, I that would be great." And then the reporter said, "Listen, we've given you space all year," and he kind of doubled down on his sentiment of an injury. And Hronik just came back with like he had like the googly eyes, like, "What is this guy saying?" And just said, "If I had an injury, like, well, if I didn't have an injury, what do you want me to say?" So a little bit of an awkward reaction there. It's tough because I didn't know that Hronik was so like media averse before seeing this. So it seems like there's some tension there between the media and him. It just felt like the wrong setting for all that stuff to go down. And then you end up with just that awkward stuff there. He's an RFA, so he's about to go into a huge negotiation. We'll see what happens on that front. Other guys that are going to negotiations. Nikita Zadorov, he had some banger quotes. Did either of you guys see his quotes?
No.
No.
Okay, so here's Nikita Zadorov on the market in Vancouver. He says hockey in Canada is different. I can compare it to Calgary, but the Vancouver fan base is bigger. Calgary's not even the number one team in Alberta. What a
Ooh.
stinger to Calgary there. What a
Ooh.
stinger. Yeah, that's a
Damn.
he this is another guy who brings the quotes. And then this is from Farhan Laoji. Says Zadorov doesn't assume he's priced himself out of a return to Canucks based on his playoff performance. He's quoted saying, "How much do you think I should make? I don't know where you get those numbers. The trees. You got to stop listening to Edmonton reporters." So we
Stop
get
listening to the trees,
Oh
dude,
yeah,
brother.
dude burned the
Lay off the
Flames
trees.
and the Oilers in back-to-back quotes.
But
Like
he just
Canucks,
absolutely hates the Alberta,
yeah.
I guess.
First off, like Zadorov, this buddy knows how to like get his fan base on his side. Like Canucks fans, you're telling me you don't read that and say sign this man right now. And I don't know if that's a Zadorov thing or if that's Dan Milstein, his agent, because that's another guy who knows how to play to the home team of his player. Like we saw it with Mikheyev a lot too. So yeah, that's going to be very very interesting
Dude,
on the Zadorov front.
you're telling me the only thing Zadorov was missing from that press conference was a burn at Toronto. That's about it.
Yeah, that's about it.
That would probably would have bought him an extra $1 million or an extra year on his next contract.
Maybe
Like,
it's because he's coming here, Dave. Maybe he didn't want to burn us. Okay.
maybe.
Okay. Elias Pettersson as well said he's been playing with a bad knee since January. Quoted saying, "The longer it went, the more pain I felt. Doesn't require any procedure, just time to rest." So there's one where we suspected what the heck is going on with Petey,
Yeah.
and he comes out and says there was an injury. Uh, I think that it was I don't obviously I was gonna say it was admirable of him to come out with this after the playoffs, but at the same time, that's just how hockey is. They're not gonna tell you while he's in the middle of the season. But I think that I don't think he's giving this as an excuse. I really don't. Because listen, he went. We heard so many times between talking to Petey that these guys would talk to each other, and Petey would text Rick Tocchet saying, "Hey, I need to play better," or whatever. Right? Like that was the story. So I don't think he's using that as an excuse, but it does have it does explain a lot of the playoff woes that we saw this year.
For sure.
Okay, let's move on. We had two trades go down in May. Not the
Oh, wait, hold
bad,
on.
not the most. Yep.
Um, I just wanted to say that with Vancouver, Elias Lindholm's I think his wife posted a picture with the quote "last day in Vancouver," and they were packing up. Uh, it's a nothing burger in the sense that they just moved there like 3 months ago because the trade deadline, whatever. But I don't know. Maybe it shows you that maybe it might be their last day in Vancouver.
There was he had his press conference as well, and he did it beside JT Miller, and he got a question, and I don't remember what the question was. Something about free agency and whatever. And Miller spoke into the mic saying, "Be specific, like about." It was something about contract or what you're looking for, or something like that. He's like dollars in term. Like he was basically insinuating, "Hey, Elias, you should stay here. Like this is a good spot to stay." So it seems like the Canucks players are trying to sell him on Vancouver, obviously, right? So
And obviously,
we'll see.
Roenick, that might be an interesting situation with where he might go.
Yeah,
Do I
he's
see a
RFA,
Roenick?
so they have his right. So it would be a trade, but yeah,
Do I see a Roenick for Nikas trade coming? Maybe, maybe.
we'll get to some Carolina stuff in a minute. Honestly, you know what? Let's go to Carolina now. They made a bunch of moves this week, or I shouldn't say a bunch. They made the Rod Brindamore extension earlier, and then this week we had Don
Waddell.
Waddell go
Step
through
down.
like similar negotiations, but we saw the different result, right?
Hmm.
So yeah, Don Waddell steps down. Let me pull up the actual thing
Yeah.
here. Yeah, so Don Waddell leaving Carolina is on his own doing. Even if he was asked to return, he would have walked, according to sources. That's from Andy Strickland. So
Hmm.
this seems like kind of the same scenario as Rod, where they tried to a little bit take advantage of Don, right? By all accounts, Don Waddell was doing a ton, not only on like the GM responsibilities, but stuff that on the business side, like arena stuff and like promotions and stuff like that. So he was doing a president's role and a GM role all in one, it seems like in
And only
Carolina.
getting paid as GM.
There's the important one. Yeah. So it seemed like this seemed like similar to Rod. Like I said, this seemed like a path that could have went down with Rod. It didn't, but it does happen for Waddell. And then from yesterday, Pierre LeBrun reporting nothing is finalized yet, but hearing that Don Waddell is the Blue Jackets' choice to take over top hockey ops job in Columbus.
Man.
So
Man, can we see a powerhouse so Carolina, let's say 10 to 15 years ago, was coming off their Stanley Cup win. They won in 2006. I would say by 2010, they were back to mediocrity. They weren't selling out their stadium. Fan interest had pretty much died out. They
They were the
eventually
Buffalo Sabres of the 2010s.
they were very underperforming. They did not draft too well. They made some boneheaded moves. They signed players to contracts that just weren't to play, frankly, that just weren't good enough for their contract value, right? Look at Alex Semin in particular.
I
They
love that
get
guy.
Don Waddell in, and Don he's it's Ron Francis first, then Don. They change the culture around the
Tom
Hurricanes.
Dundon as well comes in around that time too, right? So that's
That I
part of it.
think that was was that not slightly after? Was there not
I
another owner
think
there first?
I I I think Tom came in and then he hired Don. I think that's how it ended up going down. And then they make the
Okay.
switch to like all of the analytic movement, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
So I just want to say, like, listen, after all we've heard, even like in the middle of a playoff run, they were talking about Rod's
Yeah.
extension and stuff like that. As somebody who follows multiple teams that are just toxic, in particular Manchester United, who won an FA Cup final, and there's still talk if our manager is gonna get fired, basically, even though he won a
I saw
trophy.
some of his quotes. Those were some fire quotes
Spicy,
too.
spicy, man.
Yeah.
I'm still on
Yeah.
his side, brother. But here the thing to like just to relate it back to the Hurricanes. Like, if you do this to multiple people, I know you've cultivated a culture of success that hasn't really translated into actual success. It might bite you in the ass. Like, I know Tom Dundon is a penny pinching person, but man, if you do this to multiple people where you kind of leave them in limbo, you make them kind of walk on eggshells. This could go very south very quick for the Carolina Hurricanes. And I don't know if Tom Dundon fully realizes that. Maybe he does. He seems like a savvy business person, but that's not the way you really want to run a professional hockey team. That's maybe you run a business like that, but it's tough to run a pro hockey team like that.
It's safe to say if you pinch the penny too hard, you might lose it. And that's what I think happened here, right?
Yeah.
Luckily for Carolina, and we'll go to Columbus in a second, but luckily for these guys, they do have a really damn smart guy that can replace Don Waddell. And maybe if they don't take as much advantage of him, things can work out. Eric Tulsky takes over on an interim basis. They are going to do a full GM search. I really hope this is just a case of doing your due diligence and they stick with him full time. He went deep in the interview processes with Chicago and Pittsburgh last year. He was someone that I would have loved as a GM option for the Leafs. So he is someone that I would have a lot of faith in, and I think Carolina fans do feel the same. On the Columbus side, if Don is the one taking over there, nothing official has come yet, but really you think of where Columbus is right now, and they're in a very similar spot to when Don took over in Carolina. So there is a bit of a seamless fit there. And I don't think that he'd have to be doing all the extraneous stuff that he was asked to do in Carolina this time around. He could just focus on the hockey side of things. I do like that fit. I think Columbus is in dire need of someone to come in and give that culture change in management and then obviously downwards onto the team. So I do like that fit there. I think that would be needed in Columbus.
I don't need two Carolinas in the Metro.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, that's not a good thing for me to hear as a Capitals fan, but it is a good pickup on Columbus's part. He does seem like someone that could shift and shake up the organization a bit, which they desperately need.
Yeah.
Yes.
Fair.
Okay. Let's take a break here. We'll pick up the Carolina conversation on the other end, go into some players. I think Brian mentioned Nate just earlier. So we'll talk a little bit about him and then move on from there. Okay, we're back. We're in the middle of talking Carolina, finished up on a management side. Let's go into the roster, specifically one player, Martin Necas. He's been in the news a lot this week. He's an RFA, but it basically seems like a foregone conclusion that he'll be traded, which is pretty damn surprising. Martin Necas is a damn good player. This year he had 53 points in 77 games, 24 goals. In the playoffs, he had 9 points in 11 games, 4 goals. He had a career year in 22-23 with 71 points. So he's always been at least half a point per game in the playoffs, 30 points in 59 games. So just above half a point per game for the Canes in the postseason. So for whatever reason, it doesn't seem like there's going to be a long-term match here. Why do you guys think that is? And then we'll get into what could be coming down the pipeline.
I mean, obviously the talent's there. Like we can't deny that the talent is there. I think honestly, man, it really feels like sometimes it's just like a new face. Like a new face is just needed. I don't know, like how much deeper can you, unless you have like a different point of view, like I don't know.
I don't have an answer of why he's not a good fit. I just think that Carolina just needs a little bit of a shakeup. They might also need to fill up the right side because they're getting depleted in a couple of years and Brent Burns is aging.
Yeah.
I will say this though, I think that Necas is a bright lights player. I think that he performs best when it's playoffs. He killed us in that Stadium Series game when the whole world is watching. That's when he performs best. Obviously, 52 points or whatever you said is solid, but I think that this guy really shows up when it's the playoffs, and that's when it matters most, and that's where you get the value from him. And Carolina just wants to pay him based on regular season numbers.
Okay. I wanted to throw out a potential trade option at you guys here. I think I discussed this with Dave on the subway, and to me, it makes a lot of sense if one of these teams wants to play ball with the Hurricanes. There's been tons of talk about like Marner and Nashville. If you're the Nashville Predators, why do you want Marner over Martin Necas? He's an RFA, so he's younger. You can sign him to an 8-year deal instead of having to negotiate a new one with Marner. Mitch is going to cost you at least double digits, right? He's at 10.9, so you're only going up from there. Martin Necas is not getting that type of deal, but let's say it's, and we'll talk about this. Let's say it's 8x8 versus Mitch at 11.5 times 8, right? So that's almost a 30% difference in AAV. Is there a 30% difference in the players, Mitch Marner and Martin Necas? I would argue no. I think you get more bang for your buck with Martin Necas if you're a team looking to acquire high-end talent. And then what do the Carolina Hurricanes need? To me,
Goaltender.
to me, it's if Barry Trotz wants to make that deal. UC Saros for Martin Necas, I think would make lots of sense. Lots and lots and lots of sense.
Yeah.
Carolina, that's the one thing I think we can say they haven't had in their run of success here is a bona fide number one goalie. UC Saros would be that. I think that there's something that could be done there. I think that
Who
makes
is
sense.
Carolina's? I think Carolina's last like bona fide number one starter, somebody who can carry them through rounds, is probably Cam Ward, right?
And even then, like his reputation was that he's not that guy, other than the one time he did it.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
That's what I mean,
Like
right?
he was always looked at as like, oh, he's just a guy outside of when he won the cup.
I don't know how I feel about that trade. I don't know.
On whose side?
On
Well,
Nashville
you're
side.
giving up a lot of. Oh, you're saying like the goaltender?
The caveat is you have that Russian guy that can just come up and
Yeah.
probably NHL ready. He's probably going to be lights out, but
Yeah, I mean, Askarov has been waiting in the wings now. It seems for like a few
a
years, like
while.
3-4 years.
Yeah,
And
maybe
here's
he's not
another
going
thing.
right in the starter role, but you can
Yeah.
sign a guy at a fraction of the price that it would take to get UC Saros extended, and
Yeah.
then you go 1A, 1B style.
Yeah,
Like,
even if
honestly, like call me crazy, but like you could go Ilya Samsonov at 2.5, 3 million with Askarov, two Russian goalies. They split the net like how they did with Wall and Sammy here. I think that's a decent option for next year.
listen, you probably get under a lot less. Well, you do definitely get under a lot less pressure if you're playing in Nashville rather than like Toronto. I know the Caps are another thing too. I think the Caps are just like him, Sammy playing in Washington. Just it seemed like you guys are just so well in tuned with the team, and there's maybe there's not as many Caps fans, but you guys make your opinions known, and that's not to say that Nashville fans just don't, but it definitely feels like there's a lot less media pressure on the Preds than other teams in the league.
I genuinely think that Marner would be a better fit for Nashville
Really?
than the Natchez, but I don't know. That's also keeping in mind that Barry Trotz had a Mitch Marner in the past, and you guys use that stuff, but I don't know. I think that they need regular season production, and Marner and Forsberg playing together. That sounds a lot better than Natchez and Forsberg playing together. Just
I think
production.
anybody playing with Forsberg would probably be pretty
Yeah.
good.
Yeah. That's not bad, Brian. Like I think
No, fair.
I get your logic there. I do get your logic there. Okay. If you're looking at a Martin H's deal for whatever team is acquiring him, this is from AFP Analytics. They do some contract projections every year on free agents, RFAs. So they've got Martin H's on a long-term deal here. So a 7-year deal. They've got him at 7.5. So let's give or take 500K. Like I said, 8x7. I think that's a fair deal for Martin Necas. I don't think it's going to be like with Pierre-Luc Dubois, who got 8, and you're like, damn, he really would have to step up his game to make that worthwhile. I think Martin Necas, so right now, is very close to an $8 million player.
If he's a 40-point guy in the season, and then he maintains his playoff production, I think it's worth every penny, especially if you can get into the playoffs. That
And I
guy's
don't think he's a
Here's
40-point
the
guy.
thing.
Like
I think he's a
not.
50, 60 point guy.
Yeah.
If we're gonna be
He's
honest,
60
right?
bare minimum. I think in the right situation. It seems for whatever reason it hasn't worked out in Carolina, but you put him in the right spot, and I think he's giving you at least 60. He plays on both ends of the ice, both sides of special teams. He's one of the fastest players in the league. There's been so many times I've heard people talking about Carolina, or like that report on Carolina, say that he could be the most talented player on that team, a team with
easily.
Sebastian Aho, Andrei Svechnikov, and they're saying Martin Necas. I think it's really similar to like where Willie was before he became the consistent player that he is today. So that would have been like 3 years ago, I'd say. I think that's kind of where Martin Necas is now. And I think it's very likely he finds that consistency sometime soon.
The only other thing I would say to that is, what it took for Willie to reach those levels was like a kick in the
contract
ass.
year.
No, I was gonna say
Yeah.
a kick in the ass, but I mean, is Rod not the
Rod,
type of
yeah,
guy to give most players a kick in the ass? So that is a
that's a
curious
good
point.
point. That's a very good
Um,
point.
like I don't see Andrew Brunette as being that type of guy. I feel like Barry
Hey
Trotz
man,
would
he's
come
not going.
down.
Martin H is going to 0 U2 concerts in Nashville. Okay,
Yeah,
listen,
yeah.
man, that's a
Maybe
kid.
he just hates you too. Like, who knows?
Yeah,
Yeah, I don't know. It is very curious. It would be tough though to see. It'd be very interesting to see Nietzsche's go. If you're a Canes fan, it probably would be
yeah.
tough to swallow.
Well,
Like that type of
listen,
trade.
like I said, it seems like this is going to happen. Like there is a
Yeah,
lot of noise around it. So we'll keep our eyes peeled for whenever the hell that deal does go down. And man,
yeah.
once again, always about the Leafs. Brad, maybe give him a call. I'd be interested. Yeah, yeah. Just throwing that out there.
Straight
Okay.
swap.
So speaking of moves, a couple moves were made in May, like I mentioned earlier. First one, we're gonna do this one actually happened later on, but we're gonna talk more about this other one. So Chicago and the Islanders made a pick swap here. Chicago acquired the 18th pick in the upcoming draft and the 50th. The Islanders got 20, so they moved back 2 spots. 54, so they moved back 4 spots from 50. And then to make up the value, they got a second round pick from Vancouver, or like Vancouver's second round pick at 61. That's a lot to pay to move up 2 spots. It
It's
doesn't really make much sense. So maybe there's something else going on here that we'll
it's
see, but that's a huge, huge overpay for by Chicago, I think, right?
it's an overpay unless you have the ability to do it. And Chicago has like in the next 3 years they have like 9 second round picks. So
I think that's an excuse. I think you got to get value out of every trade you make, and that was you wasted some of it there. You wasted a bit of it there.
maybe Kyle Davidson really wants a guy that's supposed to go late in the teens, and it's
The only thing
possible.
I can think is that he has another deal going on here, and maybe they were saying, "I need at least the 18th pick," and now
Or
maybe Chicago flips that.
or you could flip it and say that the Islanders, for whatever reason, needs that extra pick to make a trade. Either way,
Sure, the
it,
Islanders need it, but why did Chicago give it? Like you're not obligated. Brad
but
just says, "Please give me the pick."
I
You don't have to get it, right?
but then again, they have so many seconds. I don't think they care. But then again,
Yeah. I don't know if it's a wise business
Yeah.
strategy
Okay. Okay.
though.
We're talking too much about
they
this trade. This is you can close this out, Brian. What you have closing thought here?
it's not like on both sides. It's not done yet. We got to see
Okay.
how it plays out. So
Mhm.
So yeah,
Fair.
in summary, we're talking too much about it. Okay. The other trade where I think there's more to discuss. Nashville Predators acquired a 7th round pick, so nothing, and a 2025 second from Tampa Bay, and they shipped out Ryan McDonough back to Tampa, and Tampa also acquired a 4th round pick in that deal. So I think a lot of discussion from this comes to obviously Nashville opening up that cap space. They're like around 25 million now. On the Tampa side of things and on Ryan McDonough's side of things, this is getting back together. McDonough apparently went into his exit meeting saying, "Hey, if there's any way you can get me back to Tampa, please do it." And Barry granted him that wish. And listen, getting a second round pick for Ryan McDonough, like I think that's great value. And that's not really saying much about like Ryan McDonough that he's a bad player or whatever. But at the end of the day, he makes 6.75. That's a lot. And to be getting value for that instead of having to be the one to attach a second to McDonough, well done, Barry Trotz. Anything to say on the Nashville side of things before we talk Tampa? Okay,
I
sounds
mean,
good.
you lailed it out,
Yeah,
dude.
like
they
okay,
I got nothing else
they
to add.
they dumped the player. They got a pick, and they cleared up six. Well, the main thing is they got the cap space, which is the most valuable asset. But
okay. Let's talk Tampa. What does this mean for Tampa? How do you guys like this deal? What does it mean about the next move that might come?
It means that Yanni Gord is making a return in the near future. They're bringing the boys back together.
Patrick
I
Maroon on a $10 million
yeah
deal. Come
yeah
back.
get
Yeah,
Corey Perry
Corey. Yeah,
10-year return.
yeah, yeah.
Listen, it really seems like Tampa does not like the position that they are currently in. They probably had one look at their decor in that playoffs and they were like, man, we need to do something about this. I don't know if re-getting Ryan McDonough is the wisest of choices, if I'm being honest. I don't think it's a terrible choice. I think it's a choice. Listen, I think I don't know if who said it. Maybe it was me, dude. I saw that Tampa blue line in the playoffs, and I was like, man, they look immobile. Like they look like they cannot move the puck.
So
Ryan
they bring
McDonough.
in speed, burning, just
Yeah, yeah.
absolute, like, yeah.
But at the very least, they know what they're getting. You know what you're getting in Ryan McDonough, right? Like
Yeah,
that's a
yeah,
proven quantity. Like
yeah.
I don't know. It
Okay.
was such a strange time to have that trade take place as well. You
Yeah.
know what I mean?
I,
Like
I
deep.
pose this question to you guys. Does this trade make it more or less likely that Stamkos resigns in Tampa?
Less.
Having not looked at like the cap numbers here, which I know I'm usually that guy, but having not looked at that, does it make
Less.
it more or less likely? I honestly think it makes it more likely. Like,
Yeah.
I think we are getting the band back together. The lead singer of the band is Steven Stamkos. Like, you just acquired the drummer. You can't,
You got your bass
right?
player back.
Like, you can't do the instrumental. You need the lead singer. So I think this is in part to persuade Stamkos to get his not so lucrative deal that he could get in free agency, and take a little bit less, stay in Tampa. We got the band back together.
Take a
But
haircut to rock one more world tour, basically.
yeah. But give me the other side of the coin, Brian.
Will the numbers work? Stamkos,
Yeah. So
he already took a pay cut the first time around.
Yeah.
I don't know. If you
No,
can get
Brian, that's a fair point. Like he did it once. He served the club for over 10 years, 12, 13, 14 years, won the franchise's second and third cups, right? Gave his body like that first playoff run, he was risking further injury to himself just to come back and play in the Stanley, like to play in the finals. Did he only play like what, two shifts? What was that? Or was it one shift in
something
the
like
cup
that, but he
finals?
scored. But
Yeah, and he
regardless,
scored, right?
I, I don't. I don't know. I feel like if the math doesn't make sense, it just won't work. And Stamkos could probably ask for 7-8. He really honestly could. And
Yeah.
yeah.
if you're an aging player and you've already served your dues for this team, you've already won your cup, why wouldn't you want to get paid and just be a leader elsewhere? You
The
are the
reality is,
guy.
it would take a trade. Like you said, the math doesn't work right now, but you can mess around with the math. You can
It
make it
can
work,
could be done.
right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
100%.
So okay, that out of the way. Before we get into some Leaf related stuff, we just wanted to shout out actually a Leaf. So never mind. I'm a liar. Shout out to JT, Captain Clutch for Team Canada here at the World Championship final or World Championships. They're not going to the final. Spoiler alert. But he scored 2 goals in this tournament, added 8 assists, had 10 points in his games played. Both of his goals, one was an overtime winner, and then yesterday he had a game time goal with like a minute left. Whenever he puts on the Canada jersey, he does show up. And then just we have a wacky World Championship final. It's Czechia versus the Swiss. The Czechs beat USA and Switzerland beat Canada. I think it's good to just see these other countries in the final. And lastly, by chance, do you guys know who leads the World Championships in points right now? Brian should know.
Uh
It's an American player. I'll throw that out
oh,
there.
I was gonna say it's either a
I
Swiss or a Czech. American play. Is it Brady?
Is
Not
it Brock
Brady.
Nelson? I have no
I
idea.
think he's top three. I'm gonna confirm for you guys here.
Oh, Brock
It's Matt
Nelson's a
Boldy.
show.
It's Matt
Matt
Boldy. He's got
Boldy.
14
Wow.
points in 8 games. I know that's a guy that Brian loves.
Yeah.
So just wanted to point him out.
I put
Also,
zero weight in this tournament.
yeah, fair. I have not caught a lot
Hey,
of World Championship stuff.
we
Let me
definitely
be
put a
clear.
I was watching Chris Johnson show. We definitely put a
Yeah,
lot less weight in this tournament, but countries like Czechia and
They
Sweden,
love it.
dude, they live for it. Yeah, I think David
okay.
Pasternak went on, I think I think it was like a Czech press, like the Czech press or something. He's like, it's such an honor for me to put on this jersey because like he's like, I grew up watching Yager in the early 2000s, like playing for the Czech, and it brings him
That's
like
cool.
so much pride. I'm like,
Yeah.
God damn it. Like
That's the way.
I wish like
That's
this
the way
should
it
be a
should be.
tournament. Yeah, you're
Listen,
right.
I was so into it when the Leafs were sending a bunch of guys to it. Like when William Nylander was, I think he was back to back tournament MVP.
MVPs.
Oh my
Yeah.
God, I was watching it. Mitch,
He
it was
was.
William Nylander versus Mitch Marner for the gold
Yep.
in the shootout. Like I was into that. I don't
Crazy.
need to watch David Camp. I check. Yeah, I'm okay. I'm okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry. I love you. I love you, Camp. And last thing, Martin H 6 points in 4 games for Czechia, so continues to put up points. Okay, let's talk about Sheldon Keefe. He's now the New Jersey Devils head coach. And we don't have to go too deep in it because I think this is one that once again was reported on a lot. So my question for you guys: this is an upgrade, but who is this more of an upgrade for? Is the roster an upgrade for Keefe from Toronto to New Jersey, or is the upgrade for New Jersey from Lindy Ruff to Sheldon Keefe bigger? Who's this a bigger win for, Keefe or the Devils? Obviously, they're
Keefe.
working together now, but so you're saying it's a bigger, the biggest thing here is
100%.
the upgrade
The
from Toronto,
roster?
New Jersey.
I don't think that's
Okay.
unfair. As much
Yeah,
as
yeah.
we're Leaf fans, like we expected that roster to at the very least be in a top 3 Metro spot, right? They
Penciled
severely
in.
underperformed.
Permanent markered in, to be honest, right?
They made additions? Like it's not like they lost anybody between last season going to the second round
No,
and this
they
Yeah.
year.
locked up Jesper Brad and Timo Meyer to like solidify their team, right? That's what
And
they did.
Dawson Mercer too, no? Did they
No, he's
No.
this summer.
this
Yeah.
summer? Okay. Yeah.
And they
Yeah.
brought into Foley.
And they brought
That
into
was
Foley.
good.
Oh
Yes.
man,
Yeah.
that
Remember
was
that
the we
steal?
were dude, we
Oh,
were praising them in the offseason for the moves. I remember
yeah.
that. Like
And then Calgary won the
Yeah.
deal.
Yeah.
I don't think
I
not for
do think
long.
I do think I agree with you guys. You are right. The roster is the bigger upgrade, especially in this context. They're basically losing no one again in free agency. Like they've got here's some of the names they're losing: Chris Tierney, Thomas Nosek, Brendan Smith, Capo Kakinen.
All
That's
replaceable.
it.
Just
That they're
replaceable
all
level
yeah.
players. Yeah.
And I think it's a once again a foregone conclusion. They are getting a goalie. That is happening. So you're gonna have a team that I think has a core similar to the Leafs, but obviously younger. A blue line that has your Morgan Riley and Dougie Hamilton, probably better.
If he's healthy.
Jonas Siegenthaler, right? Yes, if he's healthy. But tell you what, the Leafs don't have a Luke Hughes. So
Hmm.
that's a big thing there.
Or a
Um,
Simone Nemec.
oh yeah, I take half of either of those guys on the Leafs,
Yeah,
right? So
for real.
yeah, so we'll see how that goes down there. I do think it's a good fit. It's my perspective was if Keefe wanted to play the style that we just played in the playoffs, Seattle would be the best fit because they play that way. But if he wants to play what I think is his ideal style, what he
Loose.
originally planned for the Leafs, loose, high octane, he did go to the right spot,
The Devils.
right?
Yep. 100%.
He
Yeah.
he also has the easiest blueprint in the world because he has your team backed, let's say 5 years ago. All he has to do
Yeah.
is say, if you guys want to win, don't be like that. Don't act up.
And hey, they already did step one. There's nobody making double digits on that team. Step one
Yeah.
complete. Okay. All right. Some Leaf talk. Craig Berube was introduced to the media officially. Once again, don't have to go too deep into this. It happened on Tuesday. It's been a while. And he really didn't have too much to say. Dave, you want to go first here? Do you have anything?
Yeah,
Like,
I
he
mean,
didn't give us a lot.
we were in school when it happened, so we just kind of like caught. I think you were actually like you were watching, or maybe you watched like the highlight pack basically of the
I
press
watched the full
conference.
thing like while we were scarfing down lunch, and it was like loud in the cafeteria. But like, I got
Yeah.
the gist of it. Throw on some subtitles,
Just listen, we said about Brad, we'll say it about we already knew Craig going in, like straight shooter guys, like straight answers. They're not beating around the bush, neither of them, which maybe in years past, like it kind of felt like the guys that we had leading our charge were giving us those types of answers. So I mean, it's definitely like kind of like a breath of fresh air, we could say. Um Man, yeah, I don't know. Like what what else is there?
Yeah, like he really didn't give us much. I think same takeaway as you. Like, there's a unified message between Brad and Craig. If you put on a blindfold and listen to those guys speak, it'd be tough to tell you, like, to say which one is which. They sound very similar, not only in how they sound, but what they say. It's fair to say the media is not going to be Craig's priority, which is fine. That's definitely fine. And then the last thing I wanted to throw was a Blues perspective that I heard. Jeremy Rutherford hopped on the Leaf Report. That's the Athletics Leaf podcast with James Verdo and Jonas Siegel. And he kind of laid out the 411 on Craig Berube from St. Louis. and said, honestly, something opposite from what we saw in the presser. He said he will call out guys in the media and that you should keep an eye out for that. So I know we're saying all these things about boring standard answers, but he says keep an eye out. And we obviously saw that with like Jordan Kyrou. That was the biggest one this year. But he also like he will have his guys, right? So like some of his guys in St. Louis were like Oscar Sundqvist. I can't remember the other one, but they're bottom six guys, right? Like he'll have get ready for a lot
So
of
David
Bobby McMahon
Camp.
praise.
Hey, that's fine.
Maybe, right? Yeah, like that is
I'm fine if
That
it's
is fine.
Bobby, dude.
Yeah, we'll see. Like, let's not jump ahead. Who knows who the guys are? I could see Matthew Knies being that guy, right? Like
just
that's
about to say
right.
That's the next player.
So, yeah,
Pontus
we'll
Holmberg.
see.
Give me Pontus Holmberg.
Hop into Holmbergini. Let's go, Craig.
I'm
fine.
I'm fine with that.
I don't know. I don't think that he's like you given enough time to like let the meat marinate yet. Like you're only
we just put the pot on the stove.
There's not even a sear on this steak yet. Okay,
the guy punched him for the first time.
It's literally just sitting out on the counter right now, defrosting. That's all.
The pot is on the stove. We haven't even hit the ignition yet.
Yeah, man.
No, you're
Thank you
right.
for giving us the bread. You're right. You're right. We're talking about it like the steaks. You're talking about like the meals in front of me, and right. No, you're right. You're right. Thank you. Okay. Let's go back to more hysteria.
Sorry. It is definitely like step one to what should potentially be a pretty big off season for the Leafs. Like you bring in Craig. Now it's like, how do you follow up? Is it a Mitch Martin? Like that is eventually what this is gonna come down to. Like it's how do you progress with the team? You've got your coach. Now you need to bring in guys that will A, support him, and B, like just play well under him. Like you need guys to buy in. If you feel like you don't have guys on the team right now, you shouldn't be going into the next season with those guys, right? Like it's as simple as that. If you feel an air of doubt, you're probably right.
You got
Craig Berube was the seasoning, but now how do you want to cook the steak?
How do you want
sous vide? Are we doing on a flame grill? Talking charcoal? Are we doing pan sear?
Gordon, relax, brother.
Sorry, man.
I'm
done talking about steak. We're gonna be.
Let's talk about the more important thing. Who are you paying 6? Because I say
my God. This is when I read this, I was flabbergasted. Dave, did you?
Six is ridiculous, dude. Like that is genuinely ridiculous.
Let's get into it. I'm actually gonna start with I'm gonna start with Bertuzzi. I'm gonna start with Bertuzzi because there's less meat on the bone there. All the steak puns are happening right now. Okay. Tyler Bertuzzi. This is from Pierre LeBrun, who did like his UFA rumblings on The Athletic. Highly recommend you go check it out. He does great stuff. And obviously it's paid work, but it's good. It's fantastic. I'll give you a little tidbit here for free. This is what he says about Tyler Bertuzzi. Mutual interest between Bert returning to the Leafs. And then here's a quote from his agent. It's early, but it's out there that the Leafs want to resign him, said Bertuzzi's agent Todd Reynolds on Thursday. We'll see what happens here. He's been a top player on the last 3 teams he's played with. I don't know about top player, Todd. He's played on the first line with the best players on each of his last 3 teams. Okay, that's a bit fair statement. So he would be coveted on the open market. But whether he gets the market or not, time will tell. The agent said that. That was a quote from the agent. Wow. And then Bert's coming off 5.5. We'll see what happens there. LeBrun didn't throw out any numbers there. So I don't know if we really learned much outside of getting something from the agent who said a lot of what we expect.
I think the only thing we learned is that Bert, that party is open to a return, which it sounded like in previous months they were just using the Leafs were not his preferred destination last season, right?
He was not your preferred player either.
I think the Leafs would have taken whatever they could have got.
I wouldn't say so, Brian. I think he was like but
regardless, like even if it wasn't like a match made in heaven right from the start, it eventually turned into something where you could see something going forward. Like you could see a relationship blossoming going forward. But we always kind of threw out those notions because we kind of expected him to not really want to stay here long term, especially considering he was looking for something pretty long term on high term with let's say mid amount of dollars, basically, like right in the middle there. I don't know. I think it's just like he's using this to get more money. It's like, well, yeah, the Leafs are going to pay, so now who else is going to pay for my client?
Thank you for getting to there, Dave, because that was the exact point I was going to make. Thank you.
That is what the agent is. That is what you pay your agent for.
Do you know what Tyler's middle name is? It's Tyler Shohei Ohtani Bertuzzi.
Oh.
No, I'm kidding. I'm sorry.
Tyler has a gambling ring as well that we don't know about.
Yeah,
not going there. Not going there. Not going there. But listen, how many like free agents, like marquee guys that were on expiring deals on the Leafs, can you recall coming out and saying, we will not be returning to the Leafs? We are not interested in returning.
No, because you'd be stupid to do that.
That's it. Yeah. Like, and even then, O'Reilly like entertained it until the last minute. It seemed like, right? Like, and we didn't know he was leaving until he left, I think. So it's a stupid business decision to say we are not interested in going to the Leafs because they will keep you in the media. So
yeah,
like I said, even if you learn that much there,
even if you don't have any interest in him, it's still
exactly.
It's like saying no to the Yankees. It's like what are you doing here?
Yeah, there's not many guys who do that. Okay, now to the real stuff. Max Domi, here's what LeBron's got to say. Domi enjoyed his season playing in his hometown. Similar to the Bertuzzi situation, term will be key for the 29-year-old. He settled for a $3 million one-year deal with the Leafs last summer. I would imagine 5 or 6 years at between 5 and 6 million would get it done. So between 5 or 6 million for 5 or 6 years. Okay. So that's really the end of it. Before we get into this, I think the point everyone's missing here, and even me at first when I read it, is that this isn't a quote. This isn't sources are saying. This isn't a report. This is Pierre LeBrun saying, I would imagine. So
he could imagine wrong.
Is this informed imagination? Right? Like LeBron's going to have to clarify this because we're obviously running away with it like crazy. I'm going to say that this is a situation where Pierre, it's not an informed imagination.
Yeah.
Maybe that's just hopeful thinking. We have heard nothing about 5 to 6 million this entire time. Where the hell did this come from?
We heard 4. I heard 4 a lot. I think 4 is much more reasonable.
Whenever I do my cap friendlies, I pencil him in on a 4x5. 4 million for 5 years. That's what I do every single time. I think that's a very fair deal.
Yeah, I mean, listen, do you know what that screams like to me? If that first quote was the agent doing his job, that second quote is Pierre LeBrun doing his job, because look at us talking about this exact thing. Did we read his article? No. I don't really care about what his article said, but everybody seems to care about that exact quote, right? That is what that is meant to do. There's no, like you said, there's no source behind it. There's probably maybe it's an informed decision. If you spend that much time around the game, you probably have an idea of what's coming.
Yes, yeah. Like I don't want to make it seem like LeBron's a slag. Maybe,
but it's not like he heard that. It's not like he heard that from Brad Treliving's mouth or from the agent's mouth.
Like I said, we need clarification. I think Pierre's gonna have to give us that, right?
Yes.
Here's some guys. So let's say Max Domi's gonna get between 5 and 6 million on the open market this year. Here's some guys you could potentially get between 5 and 6 million on the open market. You tell me who you'd rather sign as a Leaf. Okay. You can get Sean Monahan on a 4 years at 5.3 million. These are all from AFP Analytics again. So these are contract projections. Give or take 500K. Who do you got? Who do you want? Sean Monahan or Max Domi?
Neither. Not for that price.
I'm taking Sean Monahan personally. Okay. Teuvo Teravainen 4 times 5.2.
That guy.
I'll take that guy. Matt Duchene 3 times 4.8. I'll take that guy.
I like Matt Duchene.
Matt Roy 5 times 5.8. I will take that guy.
I like Matt Roy. Matt Roy would automatically probably be the best right-handed defenseman the Leafs have had in 20 years.
So it is different. Like he's a defenseman. Domi's a winger, center. Okay, fair. Okay. Chandler Stevenson at 5 times 5.6 or Matt Domi. Like So we've got no one. I haven't mentioned a single name yet that I'm taking Domi over, and this is coming from a fan, like someone who grew into a big fan of what Domi
Yeah.
did on this team.
Here,
Right?
here's
Like let's not get that
here's
construed.
another thing too. So I think I saw a tweet before last season between he was on Chicago and Dallas, right? He
Yep.
had um he had just under 20 goals, and I'm doing this off my head, so my numbers could be
I have the
off.
number. It's 51.
51 points
51
with how
points.
many goals?
20.
20 goals. And that got him a 3-by-1 deal. This past season, he had 9 goals, 40 assists, or was 30 something assists because it
Something like
equal
that.
to
Something 9
47
goals for
points.
sure. 9
He had
goals
a
for
he had
sure.
a worse season. Like it was like 47 points.
Yes,
Yeah.
and now we're talking about him being a 25-30 million dollar player. It's like where is the consistency?
The math ain't mathin', right?
Yeah.
He
Yeah.
Matt Domi's got some of that synergy you're talking about, Brian. We got to take it away from him. The math ain't mathin' here. No,
The
okay.
math is
he
not
Yeah.
math.
Yeah.
he is a third line center. I'd go
I would even
3.7 x6.
I would even
Even if you go
say
to
he's a
4.
middle 6. I would say he's a complimentary player. I think he can play on a first line. I think if we trade Mitch Marner, he will play on the first line. But that doesn't mean he's worth that money. I just laid out the names who would make that money, and they are not the same player, right? Third line players can play on the first line. That happens. That happens. Middle 6 rangers. Like I think that's what's going on there.
Yeah.
Okay. So Pierre LeBrun, we're not done with you. He had another report. I don't know if you guys saw this one either, but this is a quote. This is also with the Athletic, and it's Pierre LeBrun on what type of goalie the Leafs could be looking at this summer. And I quote from Pierre: "I do believe it's very much true that the Leafs want to go big game hunting to find an
Oh
upper
God.
echelon goalie to help out the young Wall."
Good
You see
Lord.
Saros.
I mentioned the Leaf report earlier. I listened to it, and James Myrtle threw out his informed opinion and said he's hearing the opposite, that the Leafs will probably go cheap in net and have
Yeah.
Wall like a cheaper tandem.
Yeah.
So we've got
Smart.
conflicting reports here. I 100% lean on the Myrtle side of things.
I do
Whatever
too.
he's hearing, I do like hearing that. I don't think you should be spending a ton of net. I don't think you should be trading for a goalie. The thumbnail of this of this tweet that I just read out is UC Saros. I don't know. I don't see it. I really don't. Don't do it.
Yeah, listen, it never work. It rarely works out for teams to go for, especially for the Leafs. Like the last few times, like the last time that they had a somebody who they went big game hunting for was Freddie Anderson, who was very good and then very bad. Like, it kind of went south pretty quick here. And then before that, like who was it? You know what I mean? Was it Andrew Raycroft before that? That was their big game hunting. You know what I mean? So I've said it before. I've been a big proponent of Joseph Woll getting the start. His injury and his perceived fragility over this past season has definitely put a bit of a crack in my mirror for him, in my hall of trophies for Joseph Woll. But I'm still very confident in his abilities. Like when he is playing, he plays. He's awesome. Okay.
Yeah.
I am more on the side of do a 1A 1B with Woll, and hopefully those injuries just so happen to disappear. Like I hope for the best for Joe, but we'll see. I'm on that side of the fence.
Brian, we got 1 minute here. Do you have a trade you can give us? And we're just gonna give you yes no answer. Can we squeeze it in?
I can let's pull one up right now. I don't have one second. Okay.
I told Brian before, I'm like, get us something, but we're running out. Let's go. Super quick.
Okay, go.
Marner and Yarncroc for Saros and Sissons.
No.
Okay.
It's a no. I'm not even gonna elaborate.
It's gonna be a no for me. Yeah.
It's gonna be a no from me, Doug. Hashtag Randy Jackson. Okay. Where can you get your Joseph Woll jersey?
NHLshop.ca.
Okay.
Yeah.
And shout out to Fubo, shout out to Razor, NHLshop.ca. Thanks so much for listening. We'll see you next episode.
Awesome.